We know the fields through which we're walking are the fields of heaven also, in which we're tasting and seeing and tasting. We must do what we must in a hurry, as always, to save them, reinvent, and sacrifice. Today is tomorrow.
Fever tells us that there's something that we need to address. And that's what the world is telling us, that there's something that needs to be addressed. We're not quite dealing with it yet. These issues can't be addressed adequately that way, so we have to bring people from different perspectives, from different disciplines. Feverish World started as an idea for a symposium around the challenges of the coming years, and it grew into something that was more of a festival, that allowed for the expression of people's anxieties, but also people's hopes for creative change, for change that was based in local action, in creative interdisciplinary thinking, in maybe non-conventional ways of addressing problems that are typically slotted into either the political, the economic, the scientific. We decided we wanted to bring people who demonstrated interdisciplinary thinking in their life and in their work. Someone like Bruno Latour is a philosopher, is a historian, who works with scientists in the lab, and who makes sense of the contemporary situation by thinking across boundaries. Torquazi Dyson, African-American artist, whose art speaks to issues of colonization, issues of the slave trade, but also oil, petroleum, the fossil fuel economy.
All of these sort of materials sort of work with atmosphere to sort of give us our lived experiences. The lived experience primarily I'm concerned with now is climate change.
Linda Weintraub is an artist and an art theorist who theorizes how ecology has been taken up by artists over the last few decades. David Rothenberg. Rothenberg is a musician who plays with whales, who plays with insects, who plays with famous jazz musicians and others, but who's also an environmental philosopher. So we wanted to bring artists, musicians, theater, dance people together with scholars, with scientists, social scientists, with activists, with the local Abenaki community. How can we draw on the creative imagination of the arts, the wisdom and critical insight of the humanities, and the know-how and know-what of science and technology to develop practices for collective coexistence and even flourishing in the climate destabilized world of our likely future?
The land, the soil, the earth, the place where we actually can re-articulate the question of where is our abundance coming from and where is our politics coming from, is invisible. So I think all of these things we do here, all of these art forms that we develop, theater, painting, activism, all of these things are actually trying to push and turn people, this is the two arrows there that you see, toward the terrestrial, and say, wait, the global is gone, the local is gone, the terrestrial is arriving. What is its shape? How do we live there? What are the conditions of existence? What is the law there? What is the organization? And with what sort of entity are we going from now on to survive?
One of the highlights was the exhibition Minimum Monument by Nelly Azevedo, who came from Brazil to work with volunteers over the course of the week to build a set of ice sculptures that were to be installed on the steps of City Hall. people would install them piece by piece, individually, a melting man, essentially, representing the melting of whatever you wanted it to represent, actually. I think it meant different things for different people.
I was just talking about the UN with my friends, and like their statement in like 22 years, we're gonna start really feeling these effects. So I think putting these in a place of power where we can have officials like hear our voices.
Weather Warlock is a musician from New Orleans who's built this instrument that tunes his own music to what is going on in the environment around him, as a way of taking the pulse, so to speak, of the planet, but also of the local environment that he happens to be performing in.
I am trying to get at something, name something, and I desperately need collaboration to do that on these multiple levels. So how do I build into the exhibition invitations, but also moments of aesthetic contemplation?
We decided we wanted to have a parade, but we wanted to be an unusual parade that people wouldn't be able to tell exactly what it was about. People were sitting outside and saw us calling them, and part of the call was this musical refrain where we were using the calls that farmers in Vermont use to call their sheep or their cows in. We were just gathering. We wanted to get together, create a little energy around the need to come together as a community and address the challenges of the next 50 years.
We have to feel our own evolutionary roots and to know that we belong to life in the same way that other animals do, and the plants and the stones. The real nature poem will not exclude man and deal only with the animals and plants and stones, but it will reach the connection deeper than personality, a connection that resembles the attachment one animal has for another.